were no longer needed. Blake, how did you get in before me?
I work on the blockchain, so maybe I'm quick.
Okay,
apologies. I don't know exactly what happened. This is first time I see this happening like this. James, you can share your screen again. Apologies, I don't know what happened. Oh, I have to give you permissions.
Yes, please. Zoom requires permissions, unlike the blockchain that is permissionless.
Maybe while James is getting the slides up, I'll maybe just offer a few thoughts in general. So there literally, as James says, thousands of different types of cryptocurrencies or tokens that are sort of available to be bought and sold and traded, and a lot of those are available on exchanges. So for instance, at Valar, the company that I work for, which is the biggest Strand Bitcoin platform in the world, we trade the most value through that pair. We have over 60 different cryptocurrencies on our exchange, which are available to be bought and sold. And after the meeting, I'll drop some links for you guys so you can check out our platform to see if you'd like to sign up and start accessing this world and start investing in some of these tokens. But as James says, there's lots of different types, and each protocol or underlying piece of software that is represented by these tokens has different use cases, and the ones that we speak about a lot in terms of currencies like Bitcoin and Litecoin and other types of stable coins like US dollar coin are generally used to make and receive payments. Whereas the platform tokens like Ethereum or Cardano, which is represented by the token ADA, are meant for actually building other software on top of them. So they themselves are a piece of software, and you're basically able to build another application on top of that leverages the decentralized computing infrastructure that is running on everybody's computer who's hosting that network. So for instance, you can build games or even other currencies on top of those platforms. And there's several, and they all largely compete for developers to build applications on top of them. And a lot of the tokens on the far right here, when you're talking about utility tokens, I don't know if James got there before we cut out, but a lot of those tokens are the underlying sort of token of the application that was built already on a layer one platform. And when I say layer one, it's the base network or the base piece of software that everybody else is building applications on top of. So I'll stop there. Probably a lot of technical language, but we can chat about it and get through some of it in the Q&A if anyone's confused.
Definitely, and I also think if anybody's got any questions on any of the tokens that they can see on screen, or what those letters mean, or if there are any coins you've seen before, apart from Bitcoin or XRP that you've seen on the list here, we can definitely talk about those in the Q&A session. Before we carry on, I must say that these are strictly here for examples and just for educational purposes. These are not any recommendations to go on. Of course, you need to do a little bit of your own research on each coin. We can contribute to that research, but you must add to whatever we tell you with your own experience. Sweet. Because we lost a little bit of time, I'm going to try and move through the slides as quickly as possible, but this is a favorite of mine.
Sorry, James, there is a question.
Yes.
From Mr. Kaindo.
Please.
Thank you, James. I would like you guys to explain what it means, transactional platform and utility. Can you just try to go just a little bit more deep so that people can understand BTC and Ethereum and Monnaie? You see, when you said transactional platform and utility, can you just explain to us what is about? That's the question.
Okay, sure. That's a good question, because the next slide does compare these categories. So Transactional would be used in real life to pay for something. So you want to move money to somebody else. Maybe this person is in your country, maybe this person is actually in another country. These transactional cryptocurrencies will allow you to send that value. So you will have a platform on this end that will say, I want to send 1 million, and I want to send it in the format of Litecoin, LTC. And you're going to send it to Uganda or Kenya or anywhere in Europe, wherever a person has a receive address, and they will receive that value in money. Maybe they're receiving it for goods that they sold to you. Maybe they're receiving it for services. Maybe they're receiving it because they actually want to liquidate it into fiat currency and buy something. Whatever it is that they need, that transactional cryptocurrency resembles cash more than the others do resemble cash. I will also say transactional might be comparable to the internet, and a platform where information can be sent and received. And then platform cryptocurrencies are like an operating system on a computer. It brings the internet to you and then allows you to customize it a little bit and then send things back. So Android system on your cell phone allows you to interact with the internet. It's not the internet itself. It just allows you to connect in a way that's safe for you. The same with Windows and the same with iOS on an Apple. And then utility could be compared to the apps on Google. Google, Android allows you to download YouTube. YouTube is specifically to watch videos. So we will take the coin FIL on the far right here. It's short for Filecoin. That is a utility token that allows you to rent hard drive space on your computer. So if somebody has run out of space on their computer, but they've got pictures of their newborn baby and they need to store it somewhere, they, through the utility token Filecoin, can buy some of the space on your computer, and they can privately store their information on your hardware system. All of this is done on the internet. I hope that's clear. And if there's anything to add, Blake can probably answer the follow-up question.
Sure. Yeah, I think you covered it really well, James. Not much to add.
Sorry, I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Bukasa.
Yes, for me, the question that I have is more in terms of adoption of the cryptocurrency. Is there like a marketplace or a database or some places where we can go and see the good and the services that we can obtain from, we can buy with our crypto wallet or crypto money? I have some other questions, but I don't know if it's too early. Can I maybe ask if it's too early, then maybe later?
Yeah, let us finish through the slides. That is a very good question, the first one. I don't know of any of those databases. I'm a Google child myself, so I usually just Google something. And the way the crypto community is actually quite big, I'm sure you'd be able to find a list. Most likely more inclined towards European countries. So if you're touring Europe, there'll be a long list of places where you can go, where you can interact with crypto. In terms of South Africa, I know that there are a lot of meetups that happen, and a lot of these exchanges like Valor or Luno or Binance tend to have their own meetups here and there where information can be exchanged. But I'll definitely try and find out for you if what those specific databases are.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, so in terms of crypto as an asset, this is a concept that has been spoken about for quite a long time. People trying to pin what kind of financial asset would you call a cryptocurrency? It has been a speculative asset for a long time, which means its only value, for the most part, used to be the value that people place on it. So supply and demand, a thing is valuable if somebody wants to pay for it. But then through something called the network effect. The more people who get onto a particular platform, the more valuable the platform is on its own. Say, for example, if you're going to a new country and in that country they only speak Spanish, you're going to really want to learn Spanish, and Spanish lessons will probably be expensive. If one person knows English, it is of no value to anyone because that one person can't transact with anybody verbally. If another person learns English in the Spanish country, then both of those people have gained value because now they can interact with each other. And if 3 people speak English, it becomes exponentially more valuable, and so on and so forth. By the time 1 million people speak English, it is a lot more valuable than it was when 2 people spoke about it. So the more people that enter a system or a platform, the more valuable it becomes. Cryptocurrency has been suggested to be a new super asset class of its own, but for the time being, the South African Reserve Bank and SARS have titled it to be a risk asset at the moment. But we can take a look at some of the qualities of other assets that we have. For example, equities, bonds, real estate. These fall under a capital asset. So they have the potential to generate income by holding them, and also their future value can be calculated in the present. That would be a capital asset. A number of the transactional cryptos we had on the last list, the platform cryptos and the utility cryptos, can act as an asset as well, increasing in value while at the same time generating an income for you. Then we talk about consumable assets, which are like commodities, assets which have a value of their own, a varying price, but they are a component of something else. For example, oil is just a component of many byproducts, transportation, freight, and a component of war as well. It's not the final product. Same with precious metals, same thing, assets that are consumed to create and generate something else as well. Transactional, platform, and utility cryptos fall under consumable assets as well, because most of these cryptos can be swapped and exchanged for another asset in its class. There's a store of value as well, which is fine art, definitely old real estate. Certain forexes are also trusted as a store of value because they might have a currency that's more stable, especially when compared to a lot of the African currencies. Transactional crypto, platform crypto also falls under a store of value, because some transactional crypto can be pegged to traditional fiat currencies that would have previously been the store of value. For example, USDC, USD Tether, and Euro is also launching its own stablecoin. There's a lot of words going back and forth here, but I just want to get through the slide really quickly, and we'll definitely circle back. We spoke about NFTs 2 weeks ago as well, and NFTs are mimicking the same store of value that fine art stores as well. So cryptographic assets tend to be a super asset class of its own because of its durability, fungibility, but also because of the emerging youth that are coming into wealth and coming into finances that are very comfortable with the digital world. Quite a lot there. I'm not sure if you would like to add anything to that, Blake.
Before that, let me just translate what you said, summarized. Donc, le tableau ici présente une vue sur ce qui est la crypto-monnaie. C'est la Banque centrale et la compagnie de taxation considèrent que les cryptos sont encore des assets avec risque. Mais ici, il y a le tableau qui montre que on peut avoir ça comme capital, ou bien comme asset de consommation, ou bien un asset qui garde pour garder une certaine valeur, ou bien un asset cryptographique. À gauche, en descendant, vous allez voir, il y a une liste de d'objets et de biens qui sont comme les parts, equities dans les compagnies, les bonds, sont des produits qui sont vendus à la bourse. Le real estate, ça, ce sont des propriétés, les maisons qui sont considérées comme des assets de capitaux. Mais en bas aussi, vous allez voir, il y a la crypto transactionnelle, la crypto plateforme et la crypto utility et d'utilité qui sont considérés comme des capital assets. Donc, le tableau résume en fait pour chaque catégorie quel genre de considération ça peut donner. Et au fond, à droite, vous allez voir là, en tête là, c'est cryptographic asset. Ça veut dire que les objets d'art, les transactions de cryptographie qui ont une certaine valeur qui est durable à longue durée sont considérés comme des assets cryptographiques jusque-là considérés avec une grande valeur. Thanks, James.
Thank you for that translation. Blake, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, James. Yes, I think perhaps maybe another way to look at this is, in fact, I would maybe have a cross in almost all of the boxes under the cryptographic assets column, and I'll explain why. Right now, almost all equities, bonds, real estate, commodities, these are all commonly traded assets in the traditional financial sector. They trade on exchanges like the JSE or the New York Stock Exchange or the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. And to a large extent, those assets are represented on centralized ledgers in for instance, a central securities depository or other similar type of organizations which basically custody or hold the underlying assets on behalf of traders or the owners of those assets. But in the future, and what we're already starting to see in the market is a lot of companies are starting to tokenize their own securities. So in the forms of equities and debt securities are starting to get tokenized. And when I say tokenized, I mean the representation of that share or that debenture or that bond is starting to be registered on the blockchain, whether that's the Ethereum blockchain or a private blockchain. They're starting to be tokenized and put onto public and private blockchains to be traded in a more global way. And the reason why you might want to do that is to access global markets and to have ability to trade these assets across exchanges, and to be able to enable self-custody and not rely on central intermediaries to custody and transact the underlying securities. You can transact them in a peer-to-peer fashion, much like you do with Bitcoin and Litecoin. You could do the same with a share or an equity, because it would be a representation on the blockchain, which would be represented by a token. Likewise, you could put real estate onto a blockchain if you wanted to, in terms of a title deed, and that would look very similar to what you see in an NFT space, where your house title deed is in fact just a non-fungible token that it represents your ownership of the house. Now, like that would likely need some sort of central governing person to administer, but it could still be represented on the blockchain. And the same goes for any commodity or anything that you see traded on the international markets. All of this could be on the blockchain as well and trade as a cryptographic asset. So sorry for throwing a curveball in there, James.
I agree with you, though. I can easily see how it's more efficient to sort of tokenize a commodity and trade it on the blockchain, the same way the blockchain made banking more efficient. It's the next step. So I accept that edit. Would you like to translate what Blake said quickly before I move to the last slide?
OK, Monsieur Blake a commenté que les assets cryptographiques ont presque aussi atteint un certain niveau où ils peuvent être commercialisés dans toutes les catégories, contrairement à ce que James a sélectionné 4 seulement, parce que les autres là aussi sont applicables courantes qui sont effectuées à la bourse. Thanks.
Thank you. I hope you can still hear me clearly.
Yes, we are.
All right. Okay, now to the meat of the session. How does cryptocurrency generate income? So it's a tricky one. I think if we were to dive deep into each one of these, it would require its own masterclass session. So we won't really be able to get into a lot of specifics. Hopefully we can cover it in the Q&A session. But mining is one of the primary ways to get rewarded for contributing to the blockchain. Normally you get rewarded in the same currency that you are processing. So we spoke about the blockchain last week, 2 weeks ago, and how transactions are broadcast onto the blockchain. And then the computers, decentralized computers, are permissionless, so anybody can participate as long as you have a computer that can mine. Start to try and figure out an algorithm in order to have a block validated and consensus simulated. So there are various cryptocurrencies that you can mine. Most of them are powered by graphics cards, GPUs in the computers. And that will take us into why NVIDIA is a good choice when it comes to investing in mining stocks. Mining rigs, depending on how strong they are, how efficient they are, can go north of 100,000 Rand for one in particular. But there definitely is a website which will show you exactly how much profit you would get from a particular mining rig. We'll share that website later. But there are some platforms as well that offer yield, which resembles interest in a savings account in a bank. And some of these platforms will offer a 12% interest for you to keep your cryptocurrency on their platform, as opposed to a rival's platform, or as opposed to keeping your cryptocurrency on your computer itself. There's also trading, of course. One of the questions was to share trading strategies. I have no trading strategies that work except dollar cost averaging, which is buying cryptocurrency at a particular date, irrespective of the price. And then, of course, you can also invest some of their functions. Yeah, any questions on this slide in particular? Because I think this is an important one.
Okay, I'll just read very important slide. Ça, c'est une diapositive, c'est une présentation très importante, une diapo très importante où James explique comment est-ce qu'on peut avoir des revenus sur la crypto-monnaie. La première chose, c'est quand vous faites la génération des cryptos, là, ça demande que vous ayez un computer très fort pour que ça puisse vous permettre de faire des opérations cryptographiques qui permettent que vous puissiez générer les blocs des chaînes de blocs qui puissent être acceptés par tous les autres et insérés dans les transactions. Ça, quand vous arrivez à le faire, vous pouvez avoir l'argent. Ou bien, vous pouvez, la deuxième façon, c'est créer de l'intérêt. Il y a des personnes comme compte PAP. Si vous déposez votre crypto dans leur plateforme, vous recevez jusqu'à 12% de certains. La troisième, c'est quand vous avez votre crypto à la bourse. Vous êtes en train de faire le commerce, vous attendez qu'il y ait volatilité entre ce qui offre la demande pour que vous puissiez faire votre intérêt. Ou bien, vous pouvez aussi acheter le stock, faire un investissement de blockchain dans des compagnies qui vendent des monnaies, crypto-monnaies, investissement. Thanks, James.
Thank you. Thanks for that. That is definitely a very high level explanation of cryptocurrencies. I think I'll end the presentation there. There's another presentation which has a list of companies that are involved in the blockchain. I'll leave that on while we have the Q&A.
Blake, you wanted to say something?
Yes, thanks, Mark. Yeah, maybe just a few words on this, and then I'll sort of let anything else come through in the questions. But I guess one of the areas that I think puts a lot of people off of crypto and blockchain is that there's a lot of scammers out there. There's a lot of people who are trying to take advantage of I guess people's inclination to try to make money quickly and get rich overnight. And I think crypto is seen as one of these places where you can make money super fast, and you go from zero to millions in in hours, and it's there's a lot of opportunity here, but there's also a lot of risk. And I think what I would like to just say is that while the space is still growing and there's still a lot of change and there's a lot of people trying to take advantage of it, there will also be a lot of people trying to take advantage of those who are not well informed, or those who are desperate to try and make money from them. So what I would just encourage you to do is just keep on the lookout for any kind of scams, but also to know that some of these things are not scams, and there is actually genuine ways to get involved in the ecosystem and to make money. And a few of them are mentioned on here. For instance, you could get involved in cryptocurrency mining. You could stake some of your coins and participate in the governance on some of these blockchains. And the one I just want to caution you about is yield. And often there are crazy interest rates that get quoted on cryptocurrency lending platforms, where basically these platforms act like banks. They take in people's deposits, and they then lend those deposits out to other people and or companies. And a lot of the time, the people that they're lending those deposits out to are not creditworthy. And what we've seen in the last few months is a lot of those platforms that were offering 20-30% yield on coins ended up basically going under, and a lot of people lost a lot of money. But a lot of people got sucked in by the high interest rates. But I think will be a lot logical to a lot of you. But the high interest rates doesn't necessarily mean higher safety. In fact, it normally means the opposite. And when you see sort of 100% APYs being quoted, the chances are that the risk is very much proportional, and the kind of activities that are being done to generate that yield are likely highly risky. So you should just keep an eye out on that. Yeah, there's lots of ways to do this, and the whole DeFi world, you might have heard of DeFi, which stands for decentralized finance. That's basically a concept where there's instead of having centralized institutions doing a lot of the transactions and hosting a lot of the activity, you do this on decentralized applications like decentralized exchanges or decentralized lending and borrowing platforms. And there you can make genuine returns on your deposits through pooling your liquidity to enable decentralized exchanges and swaps to happen. A platform called Uniswap is one of those. So is Thorchain, and you can check those out. And there you can pool your funds and take a share of the exchange fees that get generated through those activities. So essentially, they do the decentralized version of what Valar does as a centralized exchange. But we can go into all those kind of concepts in the questions. I just wanted to throw in a few thoughts there.
Thanks a lot, Blake. That is very, very important. Donc, ici, Blake a expliqué que, bien sûr, il y a beaucoup d'argent qui peut être généré. Il faut faire très, très attention. Il y a la plateforme est très, très efficace. Elle marche, mais il y a aussi beaucoup d'escrocs qui veulent en profiter pour prendre de l'argent de ceux qui sont moins informés et qui, avec trop d'appétit gourmand, ils vous disent qu'ils pouvaient faire 30-40% d'intérêt, alors que ce n'est pas tout à fait correct. Donc, Blake a seulement expliquer que les systèmes d'investissement peuvent marcher si vous voulez vous investir dans la crypto-monnaie, il faut faire attention, il faut bien lire, il faut aller dans des plateformes qui sont plus confiantes et qui vous donnent beaucoup plus de sécurité dans les transactions parce qu'il y a beaucoup d'escrocs qui veulent en profiter de ce marché. Thanks a lot, Blake. We appreciate that insight. Back to you, James.
I do have a question. I was looking for where to raise my hand, but maybe I can't because I'm the host. But Blake, you mentioned scams. I just wanted to know if I typed it in the chat, they have any recommendations or blogs or resources, YouTube videos or articles that they can share just to help us try and avoid scams. And if from the top of your mind, maybe you can think of one or two red flags, like two things that you see and you know immediately, this is definitely a scam, just so that you can have some peace of mind.
Sure. So I'm not sure if I've got any sort of blogs or videos on hand to share with you right now, but there's definitely lots of contents available in this space on YouTube and on Google that you can look out how to avoid scams. But I think the number one thing you can do is apply the golden rule of if it's too good to be true, it often is, and almost always is the case. And if you're seeing interest rates and returns being offered that are way outside of anything that you can see in the market, the chances are that the source of the return is actually you. And when I say that, it means that the scammer is actually the one taking the money from you, or it's a Ponzi type scheme. So if there's ever somebody quoting to tell you that they can make money through you via trading, or if they could trade on your behalf, or they will promise you if you put in 1,000 Rand, they'll send back 2,000 Rand in a week's time. These are common strategies used by scammers to take people's money. And what they're doing is they're hoping that they'll take 1,000 Rand from you, and then they'll use that 1,000 Rand to pay somebody else's return. And they hope that they can find somebody else to plug the gap. And they keep doing this until the whole system implodes. And that's generally called a pyramid scheme or a Ponzi scheme. So you could Google Ponzi schemes and you'll get an understanding of how these things work. But they're basically they rely on new flow of victims in order to keep the system going. But often the biggest scam that we see at Velar is people trying to claim to trade on your behalf, and they ask for access to your account in order to trade, or they ask for your money to be sent to them to trade, or that they ask you to invest in their trading software or their trading bots. And that's often a red flag. If anybody's asking to trade for you, that's very unlikely they're trying to make you money. They're almost definitely just trying to take your money, or at least you stand a high risk of that. Certainly none of the exchanges like Velar would ever offer a service where we would offer to trade for you. We would never promise you any returns in exchange for depositing money on us. We don't ever guarantee any returns. And in fact, we don't sell you directly the cryptocurrency. We just facilitate the exchanges. So anybody who is generally offering you really high yields, double check, make sure that you're not being ripped off. And if it's way outside of what you can access in the market, the chances are that it's not real. Those would be my top tips. I will post a link in the chat where we have a support article on our Velar exchange that shows you how to deal with bad actors in the system. I'll put that in there now.
Thank you for that insight.
Okay, thanks a lot. Donc, Blake a expliqué qu'il y a beaucoup de gens qui essayent de prendre l'argent des autres. Il faut faire attention. Si vous sentez que le taux qu'on vous promet est extrêmement trop grand par rapport à la moyenne qui est sur le marché, il faut faire très, très attention. Il a partagé un lien sur dans le chat. So you can see there's a link there in the chat. And James, I don't know if you see the two questions that are also in the chat. Is there a recourse for those that are scammed? Blake, you can also respond to that if there is any. And also they want Germain want to know what is mining and how to get involved if you have any website you may refer to. Thanks.
All right. Yeah, I see those questions. Very good questions. Blake might have to leave us soon. There's only booked for an hour. So maybe he can take one more question and then he might leave. If there's anybody who has a question specifically for him, maybe relating to exchanges, maybe relating to the best way to buy, sell, or store cryptocurrency, please do ask. If not, then he'll take one of those questions in the chat, and then he'll leave us afterwards if need be.
Just a few minutes. Quick question. Okay. Can I ask a quick question? Is there any, how do we interface to the Vela exchange? Is there like an interface or APIs that you provide?
Sure. So so the Vela exchange, I'll also get to, I'm really keen to answer a few of the questions in the chat, so I'll get to those now, but just on the Vela exchange. So we have a platform where you can interact with us through a variety of different interfaces. We have a web interface, and I've put a link in the chat where you can sign up for that platform. And James, if you go to buy sell, the buy sell tab at the top, you can see some of the currencies that we have available at the exchange. But you can interact through the web app like James is now. We also have a mobile app on Android and on iOS, which you can access all the exchange features from. And then for our institutional or sophisticated users, we also have an API interface, which you can find at docs.vela.com. I'll put that in the chat as well. And we have a lot of institutional and business customers interacting through that platform, which allows for a programmatic or a custom way to interact with the exchange. And that's basically means if people are building trading bots, or if they would like to interact through their own custom interface, you can look at our API docs and see if there's something that you can build on top of our platform. We really encourage people to think about products that they would also like to build. If they've thought of a great idea that needs crypto liquidity, we'd love for you to think of that and build a business on top of our API. We definitely welcome that, and it's definitely something that we hope more people do in the future. So that's the interface. Does that answer the questions?
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
And then in terms of the recourse for people getting scammed, so generally speaking, and one of the things that's really amazing about crypto is that it's really final. If once the transaction has taken place on the blockchain, there's no real way to reverse that. And basically that means that if you do end up sending your cryptocurrency to somebody, there's no individual that can reverse that transaction necessarily. And that means that crypto is also a really popular place for scammers to try and get money, because they know that they can get away with it once somebody sent them the money. There's no bank that can reverse that like you can in the traditional finance world. So generally speaking, there isn't any recourse, but occasionally what happens, like for instance, recently there was a scam crypto investment company called Mirror Trading International, MTI, and they're currently in the process of being taken to court and assets liquidated and so on. But generally speaking, there aren't any, there's not a lot of recourse, and that's why you need to be really careful when dealing with crypto investments, particularly if it's not through a reputable exchange or a company that's not well known and has a track record. On the mining point, so crypto mining is a concept that is related to something called proof of work, which is a type of consensus system in which you basically have a whole lot of computers busy competing to add transactions to the ledger of the blockchain. And the reason you compete and you use more computing power to do this, or increasingly more computer power to do this faster, is that there are generally rewards for compiling transactions into things called blocks and then adding that to the blockchain. And to do this, you use specialized computers that are often called ASIC computers, which is called application-specific computer basically. And what those do is basically run a computer program which tries to bundle transactions very quickly and solve basically what is a math problem, but it's a cryptographic problem, faster and faster, and people spend more and more money over time, and there's more computing power on the network, which results in sort of returns going down for those that don't have a higher share of the mining power. So basically, it's a business where, much like mining gold, you have to continually invest in the infrastructure needed to extract the new coins that are being generated by this mining process. You can get involved in mining through a number of ways. You don't necessarily have to do everything yourself. You could join a mining pool. So you would need to buy some mining hardware, and then you would need to connect that to the Bitcoin network and aim your or any other cryptocurrency network that does proof of work mining, and aim your hash rate or your computing power at that mining pool, and you can mine collectively with other people to increase your pool's chance of adding blocks to the blockchain and getting the block rewards that get generated out of that. I don't have any specific resources on mining as such available to me now. Valar doesn't really offer any mining services, but like James is showing, there's tons of information available, particularly on YouTube, about mining and how to set up your rig and how to access certain mining pools.
Can you see my screen? The ant miner on the screen.
Wow, this is very, very interesting. Donc, ça, c'est une réponse à la question de savoir comment créer les chaînes de blocs. Donc, il faut avoir l'infrastructure, acheter l'infrastructure. Et c'est là, James est en train de montrer certains compartiments qui peuvent être achetés et les maisons qui sont en train de créer des blocs de chain, des chaînes de blocs. Donc, vous pouvez aussi les joindre. Thanks, James. This is very, very interesting. It's first time I see this. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So you can, if you Google a mining rig, you can buy any mining rig secondhand. Sometimes they'll sell them secondhand. Sometimes you can get one brand new. The one that we're looking at here is called an Antminer L3. So the person is selling it on BidObuy. BidObuy is pretty reliable for about 7,000 Rand. Now it's tempting to say, okay, 7,000 isn't much. Let me just pick up this miner and start making money. But not all miners are as profitable. Some of them are more efficient than others, and thus they generate more income. So if I go to this website here, it will estimate for me how profitable that mining rig would be. Here it is, Antminer L3, and here is the profit. So if you were to buy this mining rig in particular, this is how much you would spend every day to keep it running, because it costs electricity. And unfortunately, that is how much profit you would make. So it wouldn't be profitable at all. But
that explains why it is being sold.
Exactly, and at that cheap price. So let's forget all about that, because CoopCongo has money, so we go for the most profitable one. We just buy the one that's the most efficient. This is the revenue in 24 hours that it would be making, and the power cost is about 1 US cent, updated April 2022 by Eskom per kilowatt of power. So you'd be taking $63 every single day that this miner is open, and it will be processing either Ethereum, Nice Cash, or CLO transactions for the main profitability. So we can just try and take a quick look at the price of this mining rig. And there you have it, about 243,000 Rand. So you get what you pay for in the mining business. The more expensive ones are more profitable. The cheaper ones are less profitable, and some of them are actually going to lose you money in electricity costs. I hope that adds a little bit of insight into mining.
Thanks. Donc, ça, c'est un peu une vue sur comment la structure, l'infrastructure de la crypto-monnaie s'effectue pour créer ça. Donc, James a montré un peu certaines compagnies qui vendent aussi des équipements et leur valeur et combien il faut investir pour l'électricité afin de produire les blocs de chain par 24 heures. I don't know if there are any questions on the chat again or there is further question. Mr. Kaindo, you had another question. Okay, the tax question to say the tax that applies. So I see Blake responded to the tax. Okay, so two people raised hands. Mr. Malebe, then Dr. Mankinga.
Thank you for this presentation. Very insightful. I just have maybe two questions, quick questions. The first one, I just want to find out with a lot of the governments are starting to think about or starting to create their all sort of digital currencies. I just want to get your view on how that will affect, all the existing cryptocurrencies. Are these digital currencies that governments are creating similar to what's already out there? Okay, so just to get your view on that. And my second question is around what do you think will be the value of cryptocurrency for an organization like ours? Thank you.
Sure, happy to go for it, James, unless you want to jump in.
I do have thoughts that I want to add. So yeah.
Sure. Well, maybe let me quickly answer the first one around central bank digital currencies, and then we'll go from there. So basically, a central bank digital currency is not the same as a public blockchain like Bitcoin or Litecoin or Ethereum. In that the big difference is that it's inherently centralized in that there's a central bank that will administer or create these tokens that might live on a similar type of technology, but it won't be a distributed ledger in the sense that it will be held, in people's computers all over the world. It will be held primarily by the central bank, which will allow basically, the usage of a tokenized version of the rand in your wallet, which doesn't really exist at the moment. Even if you do electronic transfers in South Africa or any other country for that matter, the transfer that you're doing is basically just updating your bank's ledger and then asking your bank to update somebody to request an update in another bank's ledger if you're doing a bank-to-bank transfer, and that, which is an EFT. There's no actual token being passed around or updated in a distributed ledger. So the central bank digital currency would allow for basically peer-to-peer payments in a digital sense without but basically it would allow for digital payments between banks, between individuals, between individuals and businesses and the government in a digital form that doesn't currently require, they wouldn't require the transmission of value across sort of the banking network. And that's the main reason why they're being looked into, because it's a lot more efficient. It allows for much quicker settlement between institutions. And that's where this is coming in. It also has a lot of implications around financial surveillance and the ability to regulate flows of money and activity on currency, some of which is good in the sense that it does avoid, it can prevent a lot of financial crime, but some of it also has a lot of implications for your own privacy in terms of what the government is able to see and control in terms of your own finances. and that's not also something to be looked at when considering the pros and cons of central bank digital currencies, which the South African government is also looking at through the Reserve Bank. A lot of governments are busy looking at it, as you mentioned. So that's sort of a few thoughts on that one. I'm not sure if that covered some of the questions, but essentially you could use it similarly to Bitcoin, but it wouldn't really be the same technology. Cool, James. I'm not sure if you've got anything to add.
No, that was complete. Thank you.
Oh, so you are fine. There's another question. What is the average person can be involved in? What type of things an average person can do in all of this?
Yeah.
And there was another question about what is the value of this for our, I don't know if I picked it correctly, for our organization. I think Eric did ask. If it's not correct, you can repeat, Eric. Thanks.
No, I've got that one noted down. Happy to take it. I was just waiting for James, if you want to talk to that one. Happy, otherwise I can go.
Yeah, I'll speak to that one because you covered the first one in its entirety, so we can split it halfway. I would say that a conglomerate bank is very concerned about assets, how it handles the assets of the people who trust the bank. We took a look at this slide over here, which basically categorized cryptocurrency as the strongest asset that there is. Of course, it's early. We're at the early stages of adoption, which means the potential reward for taking this risk is massive. There's one of the YouTube videos I watched, one of the individuals said he buys Bitcoin for his last name, not for his first name. So in terms of storing wealth intergenerationally, I don't think that Bitcoin is going anywhere. And over the last 10 years, it's been the best performing asset. So some companies like to keep a certain amount of their balance sheet in a cryptocurrency. Some companies like to invest in real estate. Cash is obviously depreciating. Bitcoin and some other cryptocurrencies have a capped supply, which means that they're not, they don't depreciate. They don't inflate, they're deflationary in nature. So the price built into the system because of how few there are. And all of us who are losing Bitcoin every day, sending it to our assistants without any private keys, it just affects the supply and demand in a way that's very lucrative. So I would say the answer to that is any other way you would treat an asset, there is a way to do that with cryptocurrency. All these individual methods as well of making money, mining, staking, yield we've spoken about, that only get yield from companies that are in short and that you really trust. Trading might be a little bit too active, but it is a possibility. Trading doesn't have to be every day. It can be sitting on a certain amount of crypto and selling it if it ever gets 10% higher than it should be. If we look at the profit from the mining rig, to $500,000 to buy the mining rig, and then $60 of profit a day, it's very easy to calculate the return on investment on that. Some companies prefer to use their resources to invest in mining rigs because one individual might not have the time to wait for that return on investment. But as a conglomerate, people could invest in mining rigs. I would say that the vision for the individual sometimes translates to the bigger vision. So what I want to share, the vision for the individual, is a compelling vision of somebody who lives in a house with their 14 grandchildren who you take pictures of them all the time, and you've got a lot of space and hard drive space, and you have a solar panel on the top of your roof. It's a nice sunny day, not so hot. And the solar panel powers your mining rig in your house. And from that solar energy, whatever excess energy you have, you can sell it on the Sun Exchange. And your mining rig pays for all of the expenses that you have in the house. And at the same time, you don't even need any space to keep all of your data because you're using cryptocurrency to buy data from someone on the other end of Taiwan without any third parties. The idea of completely living off the grid and transacting and trading with whoever you want, wherever they are, without anybody's potential, without anybody's permission, is a compelling thing that any institution can do. And let's not even go too far. Just owning Bitcoin at this stage of the game is probably a benefit. No matter how you look at it, technologically, philosophically, Bitcoin doesn't seem to be going anywhere. Furthermore, certain international payments can be facilitated off of payment cryptos like Litecoin or XRP, cross-border payments, remittance, if you need to send money to your relatives all over the world, or if you are abroad and need to send money back home, there are ways to do this on crypto rails that are cheaper, especially once your numbers grow. There might be a lot of transactions that can go in one block as opposed to via numerous fiat settlement houses. That's what I have to say about that. And I think it also seeps into how the average person can get involved. Don't underestimate just buying Bitcoin and owning it, as opposed to trying to really invest or mine or anything like that. But I mean, Blake works at an exchange, so he knows how the average person can get in very, very well. I hope that answers your question, Eric.
I don't know if you want to do some translation or anything there. Do you have a couple of thoughts about sort of how banks and particularly your guys' cooperative bank can
No, you can go on. You can go on. We are getting short of time, so we can take as many quick questions, then I will just summarize later. Thanks.
Sure. So much like you might consider at the bank offering other, you currently offer savings products and lending products to your members. You could also at some point consider offering trading and other investing products like shares and one of those things could be crypto buying and selling through your banking interfaces, and Valar could help power something like that, where you would be able to provide crypto buying and selling to your member base through your interface, and you would manage your own customer support and your relationships with your customers and provide the service in a way that makes sense for your customers. And a company like Valar, for instance, could basically become the back end to that and provide the liquidity and the storage of the cryptocurrency and all of the security around that. So that's something that you could use at the bank. And yeah, likewise, as James said, the other side is looking to put it as a treasury asset and investing in it directly or in related organizations and businesses that deal in crypto. Happy to take a few more in the chat, unless there's other questions that are sort of waiting in the queue.
Yeah, there is one. How do you value a cryptocurrency?
There's one about valuing cryptocurrencies. Happy to speak about that. I mean, it's an interesting one. I don't think there's any answer or strict way to do this. I think if anyone knew how to do that and that was the only way, then they would make a lot of money. But basically, because it's not generally a cash flow producing asset, most of the time the valuation is done in relative terms. So either relative to other asset classes that have known established valuations, like gold or silver, and multiples or are applied to that. But there's also ways to try and value these things through the size of their network and the value that gets transacted over that network. Because ultimately what these are is a distributed piece of software, but it's really just a network of people that are transacting through a certain software protocol. And if you can somehow manage to value that network through either its size, through number of participants, the distribution of the nodes, and the value that is locked up on the platform being transacted on the platform, you can find ways to ascribe values to these networks. And it is, of course, like any valuation, an estimation or a guessing game. But there are lots of, again, resources out there where people have made attempts to value these networks.
Thanks a lot. James, you want to comment?
In terms of valuing, Blake is very right. In terms of how you liquidate into a fiat currency or how much someone will pay you for it, there is supply and demand that works the same way any good works. The more people who want it, the more expensive it is. The fewer people who are willing to sell it, the more expensive it is, and vice versa. And then you see that economic flow come into play with cryptos as well, what they call bear markets and bull markets. When more people are selling than people who are buying, then the agreed upon value decreases. And when more people want to buy and fewer people want to sell, it increases. And then you get these moments sometimes where the financial value just increases drastically and everybody gets rich and starts selling off, and the bear market always follows. No asset goes up straight forever. So I hope that also adds some insight. I mean, when you open a Vala app or a Vala platform, Vala will give you a rough estimation of how much you would get if you were to sell your cryptocurrency in that moment to a buyer.
Yeah, exactly. You can have a look at the prices in rands of over 60 currencies on our platform. If you log on to vala.com, at some of the links that I've posted there, you can see the current trading value of them on the exchange at all times. And you can see the charts and so on are available there in our exchange too.
Thank you so much. Donc, ils ont essayé d'expliquer les plateformes qui fonctionnent avec la crypto-monnaie, comment est-ce que les gens peuvent y adhérer, avec beaucoup d'explications en termes de si vous avez besoin d'assistance, il y a des liens qu'ils ont partagés, mais aussi pour évaluer la crypto-monnaie, c'est la loi de l'offre et de la demande. Parfois, s'il y a beaucoup de gens qui cherchent cette monnaie, ça va gagner de la valeur. Il y a très peu de gens qui montent dans la plateforme pour une certaine crypto. Ça va aussi décroître. Donc, n'importe qui peut commencer à fonctionner dans le système. Donc, il faut, si vous voulez aller jusqu'à la création des crypto-monnaies, le mining, c'est beaucoup de ressources, mais c'est des choses qui sont possibles. Autrement, vous pouvez déjà vous engager avec les maisons qui existent. Vous pouvez acheter plutôt une part des crypto-monnaies, des crypto-assets, des propriétés cryptographiques, afin que vous commenciez votre cheminement dans la crypto-monnaie. I don't know if there are further questions from.
Maybe I can just ask one question. I wanted to find out how is cryptocurrency, isn't it at the mercy of some of these big millionaires we have in the world, like Elon Musk, the guy from Amazon, Jeff Bezos, and so on? Is it really, all this value we see, it goes up, it goes down, since it's not attached to a particular commodity and so on? Is it just based on what they decide to do, to speculate? And how safe are people who are investing in cryptocurrency if, you know, if it's true that these are the people who are leading on when the cryptocurrency like Bitcoin gets value or depreciate? That's the first question. And if I have to take back to the presentation of the blockchain, what will be the environmental effect or footprint of all this blockchain technology in terms of these powerful computers being used and storing information from billions of people who are interacting in this particular technology. I'm told there is quite a lot of environmental, impact, negative impact, which it's having on about this effect. If we can just comment on that.
Sure.
One, Blake. You'll take one. I'll take the other one.
Sure. Which one do you want?
The easy one, please. Thanks.
They're both really good questions. So I'll maybe just start on the sort of concentration risk I think you're talking about, in that there's sort of what's known in the industry as whales, where people have sort of a huge amount of financial influence over an asset class. And I think maybe one thing to remember is that we're still pretty early on in the development of this industry and this asset class, and as a result, the overall market cap of each of these individual coins is still relatively low in global terms. The overall crypto market cap is now probably somewhere near 2 trillion or something. I can say 1.1 trillion dollars, which is not even sort of half of some of the biggest companies on listed on the Nasdaq. So this is still a really small asset class as a whole. So it is subjected to some market manipulation, like any other asset class, to be honest. If you go to the JSE and you trade some of the liquid stocks, you're also subject to a fair amount of manipulation from large holders of those stocks and people who've got large bids and offers on the exchange. So this is nothing new to cryptocurrency. It is more pronounced and it's probably more visible because of the very public nature of the blockchains and the fact that the exchanges and the prices are very well quoted and are easily accessible. But there is, to an extent, a risk of some big players moving the market, and it has happened in the past and will probably happen until the market cap is large enough to prevent it happening to a large extent. I still think you have similar risks in the equities market. So you have players like BlackRock, which are balance sheets that are $8-9 trillion. They're able to move markets just as easily as Elon Musk can move it, or Michael Saylor can move it in Bitcoin. And it should be noted that also that the effect that these large public personas are having on the price is becoming less and less over time. And typically, it's normally only the first time or the second time that they make a statement or make a transaction that it tends to have a large effect on the price. But over time, people start to realize that they're only one small actor in the larger scheme of the network. So there's a few thoughts on that.
Okay, thanks, James.
Sure, you spoke about the environmental impact of all of these machines and computers processing cryptocurrency. Indeed, there have been some studies done, not so much conclusive studies. It is difficult to measure really the environmental impact of something like this, especially versus the industry that it's disrupting. So if we think about just carbon footprint of the individuals, the number of human beings involved in one transaction currently on the traditional financial system, it's quite a lot of people that get involved. And we don't really measure the effect of organics that are all focused on something that fewer machines can actually do in the same amount of time. In the perfect vision that we spoke about, the mining rigs were powered by solar power. There are some coins that are already trying to do something like this. There are quite a lot of mining institutions that are doing this as well, because they obviously want to save money on electricity. So now that for the first time, the environmental cost of transactions is actually being measured, there are companies that are moving towards reducing that cost. And these are companies that might have been involved in old fossil fuels previously that are now looking at solar power, wind power, hydropower that can be generated into cryptocurrency. And also a lot of mines in Russia are actually built in caves in ice, because that naturally cools the rigs. and Russia has a lot of ice. So there are positive and negative effects. I would say that cryptocurrency is to take from CoopCongo resources. It's still in the forming stage. So very, very far from Monnaie, but it's good to hear that from its inception, it's already conscious of the effect on the environment. And, if we can keep all the interns from driving to an office in their cars to process our transactions, and we can all just do it ourselves at home, I think that would be a positive for the environment. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just translate quickly. Donc, la question, c'était de savoir quelle est l'influence des grandes personnes qui ont des grands montants dans la crypto-monnaie à travers le monde, comme les Elon Musk et les autres. Et puis, c'était aussi de voir quelle est l'influence sur l'environnement. Donc, Blake a expliqué que au début, ces personnes étaient capables d'influencer sensiblement, mais avec le temps, il y a quand même une réduction et que de moins en moins, ces personnes retiennent leur influence dans le changement de prix, mais ce n'est pas aussi une exception seulement dans la crypto-monnaie ou dans la crypto-asset. Même dans les autres industries, c'est des histoires qui se passent où les grandes personnes qui ont des grands montants de stock, de parts dans une certaine industrie sont capables d'influencer très sensiblement. Pour l'environnement, donc James a expliqué que les gens sont très conscients de ce qui se passe, mais de moins en moins, il n'y a pas eu une conclusion vraiment pour l'impact négatif. Mais c'est que, par exemple, beaucoup de compagnies, de grandes compagnies sont en train d'utiliser d'autres.
This meeting is being recorded.
Sont en train d'utiliser ces ressources.
The recording has stopped.
Pour que puisque ces grandes compagnies sont en train de réduire l'influence de l'utilisation de l'électricité dans les circuits des crypto-assets. I think, James, we did add you 30 minutes. We are still beyond the 30 minutes. So I think the subject tells itself that it is, unless there's really, really questions again, I think we are really at the end of this session. It is for me to, with the team and the community, it has been a very, very, very successful assistance to our community. We really thank you for the time. Thank you, Blake. I saw you went beyond your 30 minutes limit. So we really appreciate the sacrifice. So unless there is a single person who has a question, I think we will end it here. We are already beyond the time, and we thank you for that patience and your contribution to our knowledge in terms of blockchain 2 weeks ago. And today, cryptocurrencies, crypto asset, it is highly, highly appreciated. We value your time and the insight and the knowledge that you shared with us. I'm sure our members, if there are questions, they will follow up. Our Secretary General has your details. We can still follow up. If there is any need for valor, I think they will also use the same channel to get more information about that. Donc, c'est la fin de notre session. Merci James et Blake. S'il y a vraiment d'autres personnes qui ont besoin d'éclaircissement, notre secrétaire général est là pour aider. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. Enjoy the new week within the Women's Month of August. And we are sure that you come back for other sessions. I'm sure people will ask questions. Thank you and enjoy your evening.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Blake.
All right.
Thank you all. Great to speak
Thanks
to
a
you
lot,
tonight.
Blake. All right. We appreciate.
Women's Month.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for participating. Thank you.